Remaking a game with the caliber of Link's Awakening is no small feat. People have memories spanning 26 years with this game, which also means a large number of people weren't even alive when it came out. Myself included. I grew up with this version. So this remake not only has to deliver on what made the original so appealing almost 3 decades ago, but it also needs to appeal to an audience who have never even touched a Game Boy. And unlike other Grezzo remasters like Ocarina of Time 3D, they couldn't rely on the original source code with this one. Every single pixel of this world was recrafted from the ground up to deliver something that looks completely new while miraculously maintaining the powerful feeling of the original. It's just as weird and it's just as charming. This is as good as I remember Link's Awakening being. Which is handy, as the original Link's Awakening isn't quite as good as I remember it being. Yes, I know this boulder is heavy. The Game Boy's lack of input severely limited the original, and they were not conservative with how often you have to change up your items. You could basically only ever have 2 out, and neither have to be your sword and shield. They even made the power bracelet into an item, so whenever you want to pick something up, you have to go into the menu and sacrifice one of your slots. This room and the boss room both need the power bracelet to pick up jars. Alright. But for some reason, in between this room and this room, there's this room. And this one needs Rock's Feather. And the room before needed your sword. As does the boss. So just in this one early example, we've reshuffled our inventory a ton. And this happens in pretty much every single room. And the overworld is no picnic to navigate either. There's boulders, pits, and enemies absolutely everywhere. In fact, over the course of the game, I counted how many times I opened up the menu. And let's just say it's far into the hundreds. Link's Awakening was surely ambitious, but in a world where Link's sword and shield are always out, where the Pegasus boots are mapped to a shoulder button, and where the power bracelet is nothing more than an afterthought, I can't go back. It's not just like other remasters adding an item slot. This is a game-changing refinement that truly makes Link's Awakening feel modern. And that's what this remake has a lot of: refinements. The lack of screen transitions means you can dash infinitely as long as you don't bump into a wall, and it also means the side-scrolling sections don't constantly reset the animations for the piranha plants. The game autosaves now, so you're never going to lose any meaningful progress, and the original game was sometimes ridiculously easy. And that's mostly not the case anymore, but it's still pretty easy. Like, check out the boss fight with the anglerfish. He didn't do anything! Whereas on Switch, okay, still doesn't do much, but at least there's an attempt. And if you actually want to challenge yourself, then select Hero Mode. It's there right at the start of the game, and enemies deal double damage, and there are no hearts whatsoever. It's kind of artificial, but it does make the game somewhat challenging. Heck, remember how warping worked in the original? There was no menu, so you continuously go in and out of a portal until you get where you want to go. Not only is there a menu on Switch, and not only have they added more warp points, but Mambo's song now allows you to warp anywhere, at any time, whereas in the original, it just got your feet wet in this pond. These changes may seem small taken individually, but combined, they did so much to enhance my enjoyment. I mean, this game was essentially rebuilt to match the original 1-to-1. Even flowers are in the exact same place they always were, but they've tucked up so many small areas that it does begin to add up. It's easy to look at this game and say, well, they didn't add any meaningful content. And while that may be true, what they did do is preserve one of the most famous games in the series in a state that it deserves. This is the best version of Link's Awakening. And man, is it stunning! There's a bit of divisiveness out there about this art style, but just like Wind Waker, I think this is going to age extraordinarily well. The game looks like a moving diorama, and it's technically stunning too. Water and fire have some breathtaking properties, and some materials look so good that I want to reach out and grab them. I want to grab you, Shy Guy! You know what? I'm gonna do it. Gotcha! For me, this is the best looking game on Switch. No matter if you're playing in docked or handheld mode, it looks absolutely gorgeous. And you guys can hear it, the music is just magnificent. New compositions for Tao Tao Heights, Mabe Village, and Ballad of the Windfish are some of the highest quality tracks to ever grace the Zelda series. They even experiment a little with the shorter loops like Animal Village. I'm not sure everyone's going to enjoy this one, but the original was like a 10-second loop. It's sung by cats and dogs now. However, there is something we do need to address, and that is performance. Link's Awakening is, for the most part, a 60 FPS game, but for whatever reason, whenever you enter a new area, whether it's a new segment of the overworld or a house, the game will go from 60 to 30, cutting the frame rate in half. It is only for a second or two, but it's always noticeable, it's always distracting, and I wish it wasn't there. But it doesn't break the game. In fact, as time went on, it bothered me less and less. I do hope they solve this in patches, but for now, it's really the remake's only blemish. But what about Link's Awakening itself? Is nostalgia playing tricks on us, or is this really as great as we remember it being? Well, for me, it's mostly the latter. Koholint Island is small, but it's also incredibly compact. Almost every single time the screen scrolls, there's something of importance to interact with, whether it be talking with the townsfolk of Mabe Village, or returning to an area with a new item to uncover hidden secrets. It's very easy to grow familiar with this world, but perhaps the lack of limitations also highlight a problem. When I say it's compact, I really mean it. You can walk around Koholint in a matter of minutes. It's tiny. And with this being the first retail Zelda game to follow Breath of the Wild, there's certainly some major differences between the two. Breath of the Wild is absolutely massive and broke many Zelda conventions. And while Link's Awakening certainly broke some conventions for the time, like Ganon, Zelda, and the Triforce, gameplay-wise, this is as traditional as it gets. Dungeons have to be done in a linear order, the overworld is blocked off by things that need items, and there's very little room to go off the beaten path. While that's not a bad thing in and of itself, it can certainly hinder exploration. For instance, Taotou Heights is extremely tedious to traverse. They added 2 new warp points to this place, and none of them are particularly helpful. And you'll be seeing this room here a lot. And of course, not everyone loved Breath of the Wild's radical departure from series norm, and so they may welcome this style with open arms. And given it's been 6 years since the last single-player 2D Zelda, heck, my arms are open too! This isn't just any old Zelda either. There's a quirky tinge to just about everything. Link will talk to animals, NPCs are self-aware, and of course there's Mario enemies. This was only the 4th Zelda game and they took some drastic liberties with the franchise. The lack of limitations really highlight how ahead of its time Link's Awakening was. While it couldn't convey the layers of A Link to the Past, it certainly matched the 16-bit adventure from a gameplay perspective, and on a monochrome 8-bit device no less. Link does still move in 8 directions on Switch, but it works given the world itself hasn't really seen any changes. They even added a small wrinkle to the combat where some enemies need to be parried with your shield. And hey, now that the shield's always out, we may as well make use of it. It's also worth noting though that this game was clearly designed to be on a handheld. The early dungeons are no longer than 15 minutes apiece, and even many late game ones barely exceed half an hour. It's really just the last couple that may throw you off. And if this sounds like it may result in an overall short game, well, that's because it does. And keep in mind the lack of menu navigation does shave off a lot of time. So on the first playthrough, you're probably looking at a neat 10 to 14 hour adventure. However, I don't mind. It's certainly one of the shorter Zeldas, but each moment is paced magnificently. Unlike certain other games in the series, Twilight Princess, you'll explore, get your sword and shield, and find your way to the first dungeon within a matter of minutes. This game doesn't wait around, and those heavier story moments now carry even more weight than ever before. Characters now properly animate, and the music accentuates every single moment. It packs a lot of quality into its runtime. But let's say you want more out of the game. Well, the mini-games in the original were very much one and done. Yeah, you could keep revisiting them for more rupees, but outside of that, there were no incentives. Like in the Crane game, you get the Yoshi doll, which is unbelievably easy, and then that's it, there's no more progression to return to. Well, this time the Crane game's not only been given actual claw physics, but there's also 2 heart pieces, 2 seashells, and a plethora of Mario-based figurines to collect. You can't do much with them apart from displaying them around Mabe Village, but it's at least something. In fact, all mini-games have 2 heart pieces and 2 seashells. Fishing's been expanded with a very rare chance of finding bloopers and Cheep Cheep, and thanks to the lack of scrolling, Rapid Ride is more dynamic than ever. There's even a new mode where you try and get through it as fast as possible. They've really fleshed them all out this time, and the same goes for other side activities. The original game only had 12 heart pieces, and now there's 34. Likewise, Game Boy had 26 seashells, and now there's 50. There's a lot more of an incentive to stick around in Koholint after the credits roll. But then there's Dampé. Now I'm not going to rant too much about why Dampé's even here, given that Koholint has no other recurring Zelda characters, but it's done though. Anyway, Dampé hosts the only new content in this remake, the Chamber Dungeons. Unfortunately, this does replace the Photoshop, but who knows, maybe there'll be a Switch printer. Now this isn't Zelda's Mario Maker moment, it's more of a Zelda rearranger. Dampé will give you certain criteria, like making a dungeon in the shape of a heart. So you take individual rooms from dungeons you finished in the story and try and slot them together while meeting its requirements. Then you play through your dungeon, but of course not on the same menu because that'd be far too convenient. The concept in and of itself isn't awful, but heck does it grow tiresome quickly. Some of Dampé's later requirements are absolutely massive, and given there are only so many dungeon rooms in this game, you're gonna end up seeing the same ones over and over, especially bosses. Do yourself a favor and stop after the 3rd set. We're gonna have a video on the reward for the final set, and let's just say, don't. You can free build as well, and if you're really proud of your layout, you can save them for the world to play, given the world has access to one of your amiibo. Yeah, that's right, you share dungeons via amiibo. Oh, and get this, no touchscreen support. Why? Just about everything is going against the chamber dungeons, and while it certainly offers more gameplay utility than the Photoshop with it lasting hours and hours, it also goes against exactly why Link's Awakening is so good. This is a brisk game. It doesn't take long to see and do everything, but it makes more of an impact than games 10 times its size. Chamber dungeons are the exact opposite of that and attempt to milk the game for all it's worth. Thankfully though, it is optional, and if you're going for heart pieces and seashells, you don't have to play much. Chamber dungeons aside, this is how you remake a game. It understands where the original fell short, but also respects the many areas where it excelled. Those heavy, emotional scenes are fully maintained in the new style, and 2D Zelda has never looked nor played better. The question isn't did they do a good job remaking the game, but rather, with the limitations out of the way, how much do you like Link's Awakening? And for me, I liked it a lot. It's a beautiful example of how a tried-and-true formula can find new life simply by changing the context. It's wonderfully weird and consistently charming. Whenever I hear Ballad of the Windfish, a wave of memories come rushing back to me. That one song carries so much emotion and perfectly captures the melancholy charm of this small handheld adventure. If you've never played Link's Awakening before, or if you've played it dozens of times, there's a lot to love in this gorgeous remake. Now do Zelda 2. Hey, thanks so much for watching, and of course be sure to subscribe to Game Explained for a lot more on Link's Awakening and other things gaming too. Until next time, bye.